All right, what's going on, everyone? Let's see. So, we've got six people in the chat right now. So, I'll just get started on a few things right here, and got some books I picked up recently. So, I'll start with that. Also, I've got the national championship game going on in the corner here because even though I kind of expect it to be a little bit of a blowout. Still want to see for sure. But if you haven't watched the video that I put out, I don't know, a couple days ago, I went to a local con recently, picked up one book, a pretty cool pre-code horror book. This one right here, if you didn't see that one, this Strange Stories from Another World #4, and it's got a like a good sized tape pull on the top, but still it's got this really awesome zombie cover. So just a one that when I was flipping through the boxes, I saw this one, and I've seen this one a number of times on Instagram. Different people post it, and I always thought this was a cool cover. So fun one to pick up. I picked that one up for $130. It seemed like a pretty good deal to me. Then I had this was probably one of the bigger books I picked up recently, and this was from a YouTube sale. I was a little nervous because this one it was an international purchase. It was from Canada, and so it's always just whenever things have to ship across the borders and go through customs and all that, it always just makes me a little nervous. But this was Famous Funnies #214, which is my favorite Frank Frazetta cover. I have a 3.0 graded copy. I don't think this one will get a 3.0. I think it's probably like a 2.5, but still a really solid, presentable copy. But I talked about that in the video. If you like sci-fi stuff, this is like Frank Frazetta. At least for me, Frank Frazetta is like pinnacle sci-fi covers from the golden age, and so definitely love these ones. But yes, that's Famous Funnies 214. Then speaking of sci-fi, I picked up an Alex Schomburg one, a robot cover. This Brick Bradford #6. And so this one definitely has some, I don't know if it'll come out on the camera, but it has some waviness to the cover, some staining, a little water damage, that kind of thing, but still a solid, presentable copy. And it's one that I've definitely been thinking about, like, do I want to try out that stain removal process? That's something I've talked about on the channel a couple times. It's not something I've tried yet, something I'm a little nervous about. One of the big names in using that stain removal process recently got back like a 25 book submission that had 11 purple labels in it. And so, and all of them, I think, said cleaning. It was like a B1 restoration cleaning. And so that makes me nervous. That's when it's like, because a lot of people for a long time, they weren't getting any purple labels back, or it was like maybe one if you made a little bit of a mistake, but just makes you wonder if either they're seeing things where they're just like, that's too white, so we're going to hit it, or if they're just if there's actually something that they've come up with, maybe a way to detect it, which apparently they aren't supposed to be able to. But that kind of thing makes me a little nervous. But this one would definitely improve quite a bit from that type of process. So I'm using the wait and see method for that. Then this one, just kind of like a cool golden age cover. This one is Master Comics #16. But I just thought it was a cool cover, kind of like the patriotic Minuteman cover with the American flag shirt. And just, I always say I like these covers that have these cool like transition backgrounds where there's starburst or whatever you want to call it, where they go from orange to red. And so this one just spoke to me on a live sale when I picked that one up at. And then last one here is America's Best #14, an Alex Schomburg cover, World War II era. So it has some World War II themes, that kind of thing on the interior. Not so much on the cover. This is just a bunch of the characters that were popular at that time, like Black Terror, and I think this is Doc Samson, and then Fighting Yank, and I don't remember. Oh, Doc Strange, not Doc Samson, Doc Strange. And I think this is the American Eagle from the cover. So American Eagle. But yeah, Schomburg covers, are always pretty cool to pick up. And this one's a really nice condition copy, like a 6.5, something like that. Oh, okay. Yeah. And Joel there. So I got a B1 cover clean on an Uncanny Tales 18 recently. So just, I guess, a question for you. Did you do that process? Did you send it through someone? I was wondering, because I've been seeing people that I know do that process, get books back that are still getting blue labels. And so I just don't know if it's like hit and miss right now, or what's going on, or if we're in kind of like a transition period where they're starting to catch it, or if maybe when the process is being done, people need to dial it back just a little bit, because there are definitely times when you see them when the whites are just so white that you're just like that. I don't think it was that white when the book like first came out. And so then to see it like that, it's really kind of jarring sometimes. But the blue, yeah. So you mentioned you did the blue light, and so the comment here. So you mentioned the cleaner and use blue light, and that's what the person that had the post about the 11 purple labels that they got. They use that BLED, the blue light, to on all of those. So, um, and for this, will they ever make pressing a type of restoration? No, I don't see that ever happening. I think that's just become too commonplace. But this process is so new that I think it's still kind of in that learning phase with it, and on how they're going to treat it. But I don't know. I mean, I don't work for CGC. I don't have any real insight to that. But their notes they put out on this for cleaning. One of the things that they had in there for cleaning was cleaning with like water, and that's one of the ways that this is done. Is like, I don't know how they would necessarily detect it that it was cleaned by water, but that is one of the ways that they're one of the things that they're calling restoration. um, but yeah, you comment on that, not matching the pages. I think that's definitely something that could really make it stand out, where you have like a super bright cover and then like cream or tan interior pages. So you either need to probably do like the cleaning of the interior pages as well, since I've heard that that's a process that can be done as well, or you just really need to dial it back. I just answer a couple questions while we're out here. Do you think right now is the best time to buy, cheapest, hold for a while? I mean, it depends on the book. Obviously, I can't predict the future. I don't know what prices are going to do long term. I'm always buying stuff. You see me unboxing stuff on the channel all the time. So I'm always buying stuff. I'm always selling stuff. Um, but there are definitely certain books that look more appealing. I was just talking about this in a chat recently where I was saying Amazing Fantasy 15 is really getting to that point where I kind of want to start like piling up some money so I have the money available to maybe go after an AF-15, because like yesterday, I'll pull up that sale. There was a pretty low sale for an AF-15 yesterday. Let's see, it was 13022. I'll pull up the Heritage auction real quick, and then so what did I put in wrong here? Here, we'll go like this. It's giving me trouble. All right, let's see. How do I want to do this? I think this will work. Yeah. All right. So here's that Amazing Fantasy 15, and it's a 4.5 that sold for 34,800. I mean, that is about 8,000 a point exactly. Just a touch, if I'm doing my mental math correctly. No, actually, 34,000, 8,000 point, 32. No, it's less than 8,000 point. 8,000 would be 36. So, um, yeah. I mean, a little less than 8,000 a point for what is a pretty solid presenting 4.5. And so, I mean, these prices, they're not down to like 2020 prices yet. We can take a look at this, but they're touching what were the highs of around 2020 and 2019, because these books always have a range. That's one thing that always needs to be important, made clear, is that you don't have like, it's not like a fixed price for comic books. They always have these ranges. But if you go to a 4.5, so you can see here that one sold for 34,800. If we go back to 2019, you had a high of 37,500, 2018, a high of 38,950. The lows were in the 20s. So this is definitely like a 34,800 is getting into the range, like the upper range of the 2018, 2019, 2020 prices. And so like that kind of price, I mean, it's a lot of money. I've never spent that much on a comic. I don't have that much to spend on a comic, but maybe a lower grade, I could target or something like that. But that's what I'm really looking at, is you're looking at this line here, really getting down to where these prices were 3-4 years ago. And so definitely, it's book by book, but that's the type of thing that's really kind of like catching my attention. But let's see here. Yeah, hold those X-Men keys. I mean, I feel like X-Men and Fantastic Four have really gotten just hammered. I see those books tend to go down just almost like week after week. And I think that they're going to be such a big part eventually of kind of like whether that sticks around, you know, I mean, I don't know, but like, I think it's going to be a big part of what's going on in the MCU and everything that they feel like pretty safe buys once they start getting back down to those lower prices again. Oh, and then you said I had 3 books that went through the same process. That was the only one that came back purple. Yeah, that's what this just makes me so nervous. You know, it's like there's certain books where it would hurt so much to have them come back as a purple label that I don't know if I want to play that, you know, that gamble. You know, if it's something that I don't have a lot of money into, or maybe it's like, you know, the risk reward is really worth it, then it might take the gamble. But yeah, there's some that makes me a little nervous. I don't know if 3 O's have ever been under 10K for Amazing Fantasy 15. I mean, not ever, but like within any type of recent memory. Let's see. When was the last time a 3O was under 10? I mean, yeah, you have to go back to 2014, 9 years ago to get under 10. And I see that as very unlikely. I mean, I definitely see it's possible that we could start touching like these types of numbers. And they're getting there, you know, like 28,800 for, you know, then we're getting down closer to what these numbers are. But the 3O I could see still dropping some more. I mean, I could see it getting down close to this like upper end here, these 20s. But that's just my take on it. I just saw an FF48 3O white went for 1350, but why has it plummeted so bad since they announced FF was coming? I mean, it's because that's one of the things that I always say. You've got to take that stuff in perspective. You know, it's like plummeted from those really, really high prices of, you know, 2021 and early 2022. But here, I'll show GPA again. And if you're wondering, this is GPA. This is one of the tools that I use for pricing stuff. And so when you look at it with perspective to where it was 3 years ago, most of these books are still up. So you said a 4.0. Let's see here. Yeah, so I mean, you've got a 4.0 that just sold for 1,300. But in 2020, it was selling in a range from $690 to $1,445. I mean, I remember I bought, I think it was in 2020, I bought a 5.5 of 48 for like $900. You know, I mean, so you've really like, it's like we often have this issue where we're really remembering like these prices right here, but it wasn't all that long ago that we were at these prices. And even though I think in most cases we probably won't retreat all the way back to these prices, I think it's going to get relatively close, or you're going to have low sales that hit those types of numbers. Because like I said, you can see on here how we've got, I mean, I'll zoom in a little bit, how you've got these, you've got the dark blue line, and then you've got this light blue around the outside. So if you haven't used GPA before, what that's doing is it's showing the range that these books sell in. And so at any given time, I mean, look right here, like at this point in March of 2019, you had a low of $340 and a high of $1,075. That is a huge gap. And it could be just like maybe somebody did an auction that they ended at 5 a.m. in the morning. And so the people that got up and, you know, and bid on that auction at 5 a.m. in the morning, because I have done that. I have set an alarm before to wake up at like 5:30 in the morning. I remember my wife was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "There's a Amazing Spider-Man 31 that somebody's ending at, you know, like 5:45. I got to go bid on this thing. I think it's going to go low." And I ended up winning it. so there's little things like that where you can get these like big gaps because of how people sell it. You know, if you choose to sell fixed price, you're often going to be on the upper end of that range. If you choose to sell auction, you're going to be kind of on the lower, maybe middle side of that range. And it's just, that's how it tends to work. You've got these ranges that these books all sell in. Let's see. What are comic book chips? Is it a layer? Chips. Oh, well, so when somebody's talking about a chip, it's usually it just means it's a small piece that's come off of the cover. But if you're talking about Marvel chipping, so we can look at that this Amazing Fantasy 15. This one didn't have much, but it had a little bit, and it had what you could see as the start of Marvel chipping. So if I'm zoomed in here, and you can see this is Marvel chipping. So it was, if you're not familiar, I think most people probably are, but not everybody. So um, it what it was caused by the blades that were used to cut the paper were dull, and so it made little micro tears in the paper that over time just spread as the book was handled, that kind of thing, and it resulted in a little bit larger tears, and then you get little pieces like these. This is Marvel chipping that have come off. And that's actually one change that CGC has announced recently, at least from what I understand, that it used to be that they really didn't hit a book for Marvel chipping very much. They treated it as a manufacturing defect, but they've made a change recently where they said they're going to start hitting Marvel chipping like it's any other missing piece. Because it detracts from the cover that way. That type of stuff makes me a little nervous because it's weird to have something where it's been a way that they've graded for 22 years, and then all of a sudden they're like, no, we're going to do it differently. So when they do that, you need to be very cautious about, say, books that you have already graded, that you don't send them back in to get reslabbed or think like, oh, I'm going to press and regrade this one, because then you might get hammered on the grade because of how they're grading now. So there are little things like that it's useful to be aware of. Let's see. Anything that I'm looking to pick up? Well, I wonder what I think I just missed one of the ones I was planning on watching. Let's see. I had one that I was watching that was it was a couple ago. There was a Rangers Comics number 6, 13715, and it looks like I just missed that one. Oh man, that looks like it. Oh, geez, that went low. Am I going to regret? I might regret that one. What did I have that one going for? Oh man, yeah, that went really low. That's disappointing. I totally would have bid on that book. I had this book going for $450, and then it went for $228. Wow. Yeah, so that one went for real cheap. I definitely would have bid on that. So somebody is lucky that I was distracted doing the live stream. It's always hard to bid when I'm doing the live streams. It's tough to keep track of everything at once, but I definitely would have at least made somebody pay some more for that book, which to me, that's part of the fun of auctions. I mean, you get like a little bit of competition, when you're doing these auctions, and I don't know. I'll admit it. I get a little bit of joy out of making other people pay more for books. So, but I'm taking on that risk too. I'm hitting that bid button. And so if I end up winning it, you got to pay, because Heritage doesn't take too kindly to not paying if you win. So yeah, there's also that risk of bidding, because then if you have to always make sure you actually do want it at that price. But yeah, limits the CPR candidates. Yeah, definitely for the Marvel chipping, it does. But my thought, when because a little bit earlier we were talking about that new process with the stain removal, tanning removal, that kind of thing, where some people have been getting purple labels occasionally recently using that process. My thought was, originally, I had kind of my little bit of a conspiracy theory where I thought maybe CGC wanted that to be done because it increases the number of CPR candidates. Because now, with that process, you could look at a book that has staining or look at a book that has tanning, where that's really hit the grade, and you could use one of those processes and potentially bump the grade of the book significantly. So that was my little conspiracy theory, which seems like maybe is not true, because they've been hitting those books a little bit. There's a Frazetta 3.0 CBCS coming up. Do you know which? Maybe I missed it already because I'm always a little behind on the chat. But if you have the specific one, speaking of Frazetta, there is. I don't know if you see Heritage, and I don't get like paid by Heritage or anything, but I feel like maybe they should, because I feel like I advertise for them all the time. They've got their signature auction coming up later this week, and I am always looking forward to those. It's when you see these like super cool books that you just rarely ever see come up. But one of the items that's on here, not super appropriate for me showing here, but is this Frank Frazetta. You always have to be careful with the Frazetta art. There tends to be like occasional nudity on the Frazetta art, but that one's already sitting at, what would that be, 300,000. I mean, the Frazetta original art just crushes it at these auctions. It goes for so much money. But there's some really cool stuff in this one, like the 9.2 AF-15, a 5.0 Superman 1, 6.0 Batman. I mean, there's no way this book is staying down at this 192,000. That is going to beat that significantly. But yeah, there's some really cool stuff coming up in this one. I mean, a 1.8 Batman 1, high grade Tales of Suspense. And I definitely checked to see if this was that book. If you watch one of my prior videos where there was that 9.6 Tales of Suspense CBCS that went for just super cheap on, what was it, Comic Link? I think it was maybe Comic Link. And I was certain that whoever got that one is going to get it regraded as a CGC. But this definitely isn't it. This is a different one. It doesn't have I could tell it wasn't the exact same cover. But yeah, such cool stuff. It's just always so much fun seeing like the original art. I don't pretend to understand the pricing for original art. Just always just crazy to see how much that stuff goes for. I mean, like a Flash Comics 1, just an ultra rare book. I mean, you do not see Flash Comics 1 hardly ever. Only 46 universals on census. I mean, compared to like Batman 1, which I think has over 100. Well, we can check. Let's see here. Because there's a Batman 1 here. So I think Batman 1, what does it have? Yeah, 139 universals, 294 total. So, I mean, just the comparison of, Flash 1 to Batman 1, it's not even close with the rarity between those two. But let's check out some more questions here. The low grades of FF49 are down 300 and 350 from what they were in 2021. The higher grades are down even more. I'm starting to look at getting a lower grade copy. That wasn't the case last year. Yeah, I mean, there aren't many books that have like bucked that trend, that haven't really come down at least some. I'm sure there are some outliers, but when you're talking Silver Age, Bronze Age, Copper, Modern, that kind of thing, just about everything has pulled back some from those peaks. Hey, yeah, and thanks for joining from Copenhagen. Like I said, I always say this. I always love seeing people join from other countries. I always get a big kick out of that. Let's see. Yeah. Mental note when bidding on GA books on Heritage, distract Ryan first. Yeah, that's funny. That's something that I'm in a chat with Mickey with Swaggle House Comics, and there was a Heritage auction. I don't know, maybe a month ago. It's where I picked up a number of the EC lots, and, and so when the lots came up that I wanted to bid on, I went into that chat and I just started typing distract, like multiple times and sending it. But yeah, no, that was my little attempt to try to win those books. Let's see here. When the economy was fat, the comic book prices. Now that we're in recession, not so much. Yeah, I mean, like I said, like people are still buying books when they're priced right. I mean, so yeah, I like prices have come down. That's definitely true. But like I sell quite a few comics, and I have consistently sold about the same dollar amount of comics throughout the year. And so I mean, as long as you price stuff appropriately, there's still people that want to buy comics. So that's why I haven't ever really felt overly concerned about, comic market, that kind of thing. And one of the interesting things has been that recently, the last like 3 weeks, which I thought I was surprised about. I didn't think that I would see stronger sales over the last few weeks because of the just the holiday and everything like that. But I have seen 3 of the strongest weeks in months, like a lot of like many months. And so I don't know if it's just people had like Christmas money sitting around, or if, if prices have just started to get down to where people are like, screw it, I'll pay that, and because that's what I feel like. Eventually it just gets to a point where people will just say that's low enough for me. Like I've been waiting. I want to get that book. That was the other interesting thing that I saw, because I already looked at. Oh, I did want to watch this one. What did I have this one at? I'm going to bid on that one. Let's see. Someone else is also bidding, or they have a. All right, now I'm winning it. I just thought this was a really cool skull cover, but we'll see. Oh, looks like I won it. So yeah, I just won that one. So I was not successfully distracted this time, but I thought this was a really cool skull cover. This Shadow like the Shadow Comics run has some really cool covers that often go underappreciated, and so yeah, I'm pretty happy with winning that one. That's pretty cool. So because I had, let's see, I had estimated that one at 1,800. So to win it for 1,080, I think that's what I won it for. Seemed like a really, really good price. So I am super happy with that one. All right. So yeah, was not successfully distracted that time. Yeah, that's actually one of the interesting things. So your question, if Frazetta is so great, why are his magazines so hard to sell? Yeah, like his golden age stuff. I was that's something else I was talking about recently with someone else, is that his golden age stuff is so valuable, like the famous funnies books, and some of like the weird science fantasy, that kind of thing. But once you get into the silver age and then trickle into the bronze age, the books are really, really affordable, with just a few exceptions. Like Vampirella 1 is really pricey. There's a couple other later Vampirella issues, like he did 5, and I mean he did a number of those early ones, but they're kind of pricey in the really high grades, but they are really, really affordable in the lower grades. The same thing, like he did a number of great covers on like eerie and creepy, and so yeah, I don't know why. I don't know if that means that it's something that will eventually catch on, or if it's the fact that they're the magazines, which magazines are always a little more annoying to deal with, just because they're bigger. They're more of a pain to get graded because they take forever unless you're paying for the walkthrough. And if you watched one of my recent videos with the CGC submission, even though I paid for walkthrough with the magazines, which was supposed to be, according to their website, like 3 or 4 days, it took a month for them to grade those books. And I've heard if you do standard, which is supposed to be like 28 days or 25 days, it takes like 4 months, 6 months, people have said. So the magazine grading is just so slow that I feel like that's something that probably hurts it a little bit. And when I called CGC, and I like, because I mean, like I paid for walkthrough. I paid all this extra money for walkthrough. And so I call them, I'm like, hey, it's been like 3 weeks. And they're like, well, it's magazines. And I'm like, if you guys know it's that bad, just update your site. Have your site say that the time for walkthrough is like 15 days or 20 business days or whatever it is. But yeah. All right. Oh, no, I didn't win that one. I had a pre-bid on this one in here, but I did not win it. All right, that's too bad. But let's see. Yeah, oh, and we've got somebody joining from Australia as well. I have been hooked on Australian gold mining YouTube channel recently. Like, there's a bunch of them about where people are just out either doing like placer mining, or they're searching for nuggets and that kind of stuff. Like I love the idea of gold mining. It's always appealed to me. I like the idea of just being able to go like search around and basically like find money. And so like I always like to watch those shows on Discovery and everything, but I think it was Discovery. But the problem was the shows on Discovery always they felt like they're scripted and all that kind of stuff. But the stuff on YouTube is just people out doing it. I love it. It's like the perfect it's the perfect alternative where you don't get any of that extra drama thrown into it, but you get all the fun, gold mining and searching and all that kind of thing. let's watch sold listings on eBay after the Ant-Man trailer. Yeah, it's supposed to be at halftime, right? Like I said, I've got the I do have the national championship on over to the left of me. It's on commercials right now, so I don't actually know what the score is, but it kind of started off how I expected. I was kind of expecting Georgia to win, but like I'm a Michigan fan, and so I I was depressed already. I don't really need to. I mean, I felt kind of relieved because I was like, at least this way we don't get embarrassed on the national stage again against Georgia. But yeah, so somebody else gets to hopefully get embarrassed by them. Let's see. Interesting to see what AF-15 9.2 sells for if it breaks the 1 million barrier. I don't know. I haven't even really looked at the pricing for anything on those big books. I really haven't hardly even looked at what's coming up in this next signature auction. The only one I really know about is that Suspense 3, the one that I did that whole video series about, or not series, but that video about where it was graded as a blue label, but it ended up that somebody had married the cover, and someone with kind of some eagle eyes on the CGC forums found it, and they notified Heritage. Heritage pulled the listing. Now it's back, and it's a green label. And not only was the cover married, but the centerfold was married, which is crazy. Because like with that one, I could understand how they missed the married cover because there was no paper at the staple. And so that's one of the main ways you'd normally find it, is that you wouldn't have the staple holes aligning. But missing a married centerfold, that, especially for a walkthrough on a book that probably cost, 5% of like 20 grand. It probably cost $1,000 to get that book graded. You'd think you'd spend a little bit more time to check that kind of stuff and make sure that it's actually, everything's good. But let's take a look at what this 9.2 might sell for. Because let's see. So, in 2019, sold for 598,000. Let's see if we have because the best you can really do is kind of look at how things have changed in other grades. So like in 2019, there was no sale in 2019. Let's see, when have we had sales for a 9.2? Can't be that often. So we had 2016 selling for 392,000. And then in 2017, an 8.5 was selling for 155,000. That 8.5 is now selling for, give or take, 3 times. A little more than that, but let's just say 3 times. So this one, 3 times 392,000 is just a little under 1.2 million. I wouldn't be shocked if that book broke the $1 million mark. That really wouldn't surprise me if that book broke $1 million. Bronzeville Comics. Silver Surfer was one of those characters that were over speculated on the prices, went up a bit out of control. I think that is true with a lot of characters we have yet to see in the MCU. Yeah, definitely. Silver Surfer, I think everybody was they got so excited about Fantastic Four, and that just assuming we're going to get Galactus, assuming we're going to get Silver Surfer, which I think we will. But the question is, it's like, when? I know they've said recently that we're supposed to get some type of like one-shot type thing with Silver Surfer, some way that they're going to introduce the character. But who knows what that's going to be like? Is it going to be like the holiday special with Guardians of the Galaxy, or what's going to be going on with that? But I love Silver Surfer. When I was growing up, my favorite characters were Spider-Man, Silver Surfer, and Thanos. And so that's one of the characters even though that Fantastic Four movie wasn't great, I liked seeing Silver Surfer. I liked getting that character on the screen. So I'm looking forward to seeing him regardless. I wish someone was distracting Swaggle for the Vault of Horror 35. I don't know if he's planning on. There is one coming up tonight. I don't know if he's planning on bidding on it or not. I haven't talked to him about any of the books tonight, if he's planning on bidding on anything. But yeah, it's a raw copy. Let me find the number. 13894. So 13894. Yeah, so here's the Vault 35 that's coming up tonight. They've got it at 2.5, I think. Yep, 2.5. I'd say it looks about like a 2.5. Let's see. It does that's right. This one has extra staples added, so you can see the let's go to the bigger screen here. So here it is. It's got 1, 2, 3 extra staples. I mean, the spine looks pretty rough. I think it could get in the twos though. I think a 2 to a 2.5 is very plausible for this book because it's a pretty presentable book for the most part. The question is if those staples, if the book is detached otherwise, if that's the reason why it got that, why it's getting that lower grade or not. They're a little easier to see here on the back cover. You can see those extra staples there. But yeah, I've said this before. This is my favorite Johnny Craig cover. I mean, I do really like the crime suspense stories 22, you know, the beheading cover, that kind of stuff. He has some other great covers, but this one is my favorite, and it's because of I love the comedy to it. I've said this before. I love that, you know, it's like thinking of this guy like taking the time to write out the card. It's just I don't know, I get a kick out of this cover. I think it's pretty funny. So that's what's to me the big draw for this one is it's not just brutally violent. I mean, the ones that are just brutally violent, those ones usually do, you know, get the most value. But I do like the little bit of humor that's added in to that one. Oh, this is a big book. Let's see. I was definitely watching that one. I think it was already above what I wanted to pay though. I had it going for 2,400, and it went for 2640. So right around. I mean, like 10% above my estimate. But when you're talking about prices like this, I mean, and when you're guessing books that rarely sell, I mean, 10% is pretty close. I think it actually last sold for 2,400. I think that was the high. No, it last sold for 2,520. So it was a new record by by $120. But pretty cool cover. It's super creepy worm thing. But yeah, nice solid sale. You know, 7.5 white pages, which, you know, for 1952, white pages is always pretty cool to see. But let's get back to some comments. Thomas Palmer, I'm putting my money in early Golden Age Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, especially those with World War II covers, Hitler, Mussolini, and Tojo. Yeah, actually, let's before I talk about that, I remember that was a pretty high grade Star Trek 1. This book has gotten much more expensive lately. So an 8.5 for 2,100. What did I have that one going for? Yeah, its prior record was 1,197. I thought it would go for 1,850 and went for 2,100. So beat my expectation, which doesn't happen often right now with Silver Age. I don't see Silver Age beating my expectations all that often. So that was a solid sale for that one. But back to the comment. Yeah, I mean, that's if you obviously if you watch my channel, you see me doing the unboxings. I have been buying a lot more of the oh, there's some big books coming up. But I've been buying a lot more of the Golden Age than the other stuff, and it's just I like the stability of Golden Age. I mean, I like Golden Age because I like the books themselves, so that's a big part of it for me. They just I like that they're harder to get, that I have to wait to get the book, you know, wait for one to actually become available. I can't just go out and get it anytime. That's a big, you know, appeal to me. But it's not just that. They're I also do like I said, I like the stability that tends to come with them. So here we've got a Star Wars 1 and a 9.8. Let's see. 3,000 seems pretty low. Yeah, that's low. If I had the money, I would be bidding on that, but I don't. But because I had estimated that because this one had actually turned back up a little bit. It had come down into the like a little under 4,000, but it had some higher sales, like in the mid 4s to 5, and so I thought it'd go for 46. So 8.5. This one's going a lot lower than I thought too. Let's see if we get some more bids. So if you're not familiar with this or why this is selling for so much, this is the 35-cent variant. This is the #1 most expensive Bronze Age book. So if you go into, it's that book, if you go into the Overstreet Price Guide, and they've got like the most expensive books for the different ages, this is the book for the Bronze Age. There was like a 9.2 that sold, I think it was a 9.2, sold for like 54,000 or something like that recently. Here's a 7.5. Oh man, I want to bid on that book. I want more people to put bids in so that I don't feel like I have to bid on it. Oh man, let's see. Come on, bid more. I don't want to have to throw a bid into that one because I'm really tempted to. All right, I still want to. Man, I want to bid on that book. I'm gonna let it go though. I can't. But yeah. So this is talking about this a little bit more. The big thing is that this book is extremely rare. If you're familiar with these price variants, they were when Marvel was testing out a price increase on a book. And so they would do it in a small set of markets where they would, yeah, that was a really good price for that. So yeah, it was a great price. But they would test it out in a very small set of markets. And so there's a 35-cent variant for issue 1, 2, and I believe issue 3. I think issue 4 are all 35 cents. And so that means that the main cover, like the primary ones, were 30 cents, and then the variant is the 35. And so they're extremely uncommon, and they sell for huge multiples, like 40 times what the original, the 30-cent copy sells for. But let's see. So let's go Star Wars. And it's one of those things that some people don't care about that stuff. I think it's pretty cool. I like them, but it's just like things like Newsstand or Mark Jewelers and all that. Some people couldn't care less about those little variants, multiple covers, that kind of thing. But I like them. I think it's cool. Yeah. Okay. So it was a 9.4 that sold for 56,400 in November. So, and I think the highest grade of a 35-cent is a 9.6. I don't think, let me see. Yeah, there are 2 9.6s. There are no 9.8s. I would love there to be like a 9.8 that comes out. I'm sure that the people with the 9.6s have maybe tried, they tried to do a resubmission to see if they could get it, because I think that would be just a monster book. I'd love to see what that would actually sell for. All right. But 12-cent, I'm also sensing a slight turn up in the market. The tricky part for me has been that, like, every time I see that, where because if I haven't done a market video in a while, just because they take a lot of work and people don't seem to watch them all that much. And so I feel like I've got to get some like return, like at least like with views or something like that, when I put all the effort that goes into those market videos. But I still track all the data, and I've got it actually right in front of me on my screen. And one of the things is, like, every time I see the market seem to get back to where it's getting across. So what I do is I price all these books every week, and I look at what percentage of books beat my estimate versus don't beat my estimate. And so the way I see it is, if everything is stable, it should be at 50%, because that means I'm right in the middle of where the books are selling, and every once they'll sell you're hardly ever going to get it exactly right. And so about half the time they'll sell just a little above what you estimate, and half the time a little bit below. And every time it's just like it gets up and like touches the 50% mark. It stays there for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and then it comes tumbling back down. And it did that. So like I said, I'm looking at my chart right now. It did that in September of 2021. It did it in January of 2022. It did it in May of 2022. It did it in August of 2022, and it's doing it right now. And like I just said, it did it in January of 2021 as well. And so it's like, are we just repeating this again? And it's like, this is just this little thing where it gets up there and then it starts falling down again. I don't know. But that's what I have been seeing. And it is definitely above that 50% mark right now. And it's been doing it for a couple weeks. And so it always gives me hope when I see that. I'm like, oh, is this the turning point? And then it seems to let me down soon after. The other thing, I don't think I mentioned it, since I was talking about the market a little bit. The other thing was that in the first half of these sale, because these Heritage Weekly auctions, they're 2 days. They are on Sundays and Mondays, unless there's something that's conflicting, but normally Sundays and Mondays. And I looked at the numbers for Sunday, and Sunday was pretty strong. It was 48% of the sales beat my estimate, so right around that 50% mark. But the really surprising thing was that only 3% of sales were more than 20% below my estimates, meaning like books that went really, really cheap. And 22% were the books that went 20% or more above my estimates. So like pretty strong sales. Normally, I do normally see about 20 to 22% or somewhere in that around 20% going above my estimates by that much. But usually on the low end, it's anywhere from like 15. The lowest I'd ever seen before that was like 12. This was 3, which to me that it potentially signals like maybe like some type of floor where people are just the books aren't going, they aren't dropping as much. You know, you still have sales that are below the estimate, obviously, because they're 52% of the books sold below my estimate, but I wasn't seeing like huge drops. And so I don't know what that means. You know, that was just half of 1 week. I don't know how the rest of this week, I'll have to look at the data after this week is over to see how that plays out. But, you know, 1 point on the chart doesn't mean anything, but it is something that I find interesting when I see it because, you know, I had not seen that before. And the fact that I've been seeing stronger sales recently. But yeah, that's always the thing, like with markets and all that kind of stuff, you know, it's usually when people are screaming the loudest that it's falling apart, that's when it's starting to turn. I've just, I've learned that from making enough mistakes in the stock market over the years. That, you know, it's like when you have that like immense fear, that's usually about the time that you shouldn't have fear, that you should be buying stuff. Let's see. so I don't know if you were bidding on that one book that I just won, but sorry about that. But yeah, no, I'm excited to have won that skull cover. See, I love Frazetta's work on The Shining Knight. Sadly, DC didn't put that character ever on the cover of Adventure Comics. I'm not overly familiar with much of his like of that work that he did. I always tend to focus on the sci-fi stuff that he did, and then some of the I call it like the mystical creature type, you know, type covers, you know, the fantasy type covers. I always like fantasy type stuff. That's always just been something I've enjoyed. Oh yeah, this is a big book. I'm not surprised this is going for what it's going for. But I still feel like that is really strong. I got to check what I estimated that as. So this is Strange Tales 28. This is this awesome skull cover. This is such a cool one. You just like, you feel the fear in that guy's face up there. But it's over 2,000 now. What did I have that at? Man, I had that one going for 1,100. That is a huge sale for this book. So yeah, it went for 2,040. Wow. Let's take a see if I got it. Got my drink was in the way. I'm gonna see if I can. There we go. Yeah, let's take a look at this one. So they had it as a 3.5. I think part of the reason I had estimated it a little lower is I didn't know if this could hit a 3.5. I was a little worried about kind of like how, like that there's maybe some splitting I couldn't really see along the spine here, you know, because like this looks like really fragile at that spine. If you can, you know, kind of see all that fraying and everything, because like for me, a lot of times with books this expensive, I'm going to want to get them graded. You know, I'm going to, because I don't really like, if I'm going to sell a book and it's that expensive, I like to have it graded first. And I have had difficulty with CGC on a couple occasions with books that have fragile spines where they've split them worse, or they've detached a staple, or, you know, that kind of thing. And so it makes me cautious. Also, I mean, because like the other thing that, like when you see this here, how you have the bottom sticking out, that usually means that it's really loose at those staples, that it's like it's sliding, you know, down. The weight of the pages is basically pulling it down on those staples. And so there are a number of things about this one that, I mean, it is a solid presenting copy, like no big creases in the middle or anything. So, you know, that's a big selling point for it, especially with the black cover. But that spine made me very nervous. But man, yeah, it's a cool cover. I've wanted to pick that one up But yeah, that's definitely more than I wanted to pay for that book. Um, let's see. Um, I hate the magazine enclosures. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, if you're talking about the magazine cases for CGC, they feel so fragile. Like every time I'm holding them, I feel like I'm gonna crack it or something like that. Like I always have to be extra careful whenever I've got um, one of those magazine cases. On here we've got the Fin Fang Foom. This book went crazy for a little while, especially like over the comic boom. This book went really, really big because I picked up, I had like a 1.8 or something like that I bought pre comic boom, I think for like $300 or $350. And I think I ended up selling it for around 1,000 or something like that, kind of in the comic boom. So people were, I think part of the speculation with that one is people thought that the dragon or one of the dragons that was in Shang-Chi was going to be Fin Fang Foom, and ended up that it wasn't, but that book has still held up relatively well. I mean, it's come down some, but that book has still held up relatively well over time. Let's see. Okay, so Kang's having a big day today. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't checked like eBay sales or anything like that to see if people have already started, buying up Kang books or that kind of thing. But that is something that's interesting. I was talking about that specifically with Como Comics, Drew, and Swaggle House Comics today, where I was talking about Avengers 8 and how it makes me a little bit nervous, just because like the comparison that we were talking about was Iron Man 55, because you've got the first appearance of Thanos. He was like the big bad for Marvel for what, like almost a decade. And that book definitely trended up pretty strong over that time. The interesting thing is it has really held its prices. And I don't know if that's because you've got that first Eros in there, or if it's just because Thanos is such a popular character. I mean, like I said, one of my top 3 characters when I was growing up, and still definitely one of my favorite characters out there. And so I don't know if that's just like he's staying strong on his prices just because there's a lot of built-in demand for him. But with Kang, I don't know a lot of like hardcore like Kang fans. And my example that I gave was like, it kind of feels like Moon Knight to me, where like that Werewolf by Night 32 was a pretty cheap book before we started getting all the hype around the Moon Knight show. And then Moon Knight was a big disappointment for a lot of people, and that book has plummeted. I mean, it is almost back to the 2020 type prices. And so that's what I'm a little nervous about with this. Now, I will say the other thing I said, that while even though I say that, was it Jonathan Majors, the one that's playing Kang? He like his like short little scene in Loki, that like 3 minutes that he was in Loki, was probably my favorite 3 minutes from this entire phase of Marvel. I loved that scene. I probably watched it 5 times. I loved that scene when he was in there. I thought he just killed it. And so, but I mean, that's the thing. Like you can tell he is an exceptional actor, but they've got to give him good writing. And I don't know what we're going to get in Ant-Man. It looks good. It looks fun. I am hopeful. But I feel like we've been let down a number of times in this phase. So I'm trying not to get my hopes up too high. Like, I mean, like with Thor: Love and Thunder, I still haven't even watched all of it. I watched the first half hour and I just turned it off. I was like, all right, I've seen enough. And I haven't seen Black Panther yet. I've heard that one's good, but I haven't gotten around to seeing it yet. But there's just, I haven't had because of the number of like letdowns I've had with stuff in this phase, I haven't been like, oh, I've got to go out and see that. And so that's been kind of like a downside for me lately on the MCU stuff. I'm hopeful for Ant-Man. I think that looks like that'll be good. I'm really hopeful for the Secret Invasion stuff. I think that I can't remember. I think it's Secret Invasion is the show, and that looks really good. It had that vibe like Winter Soldier, and I love Winter Soldier. That's still one of my favorite Marvel movies. That movie, I watched it with my family over Christmas. We were talking. We had watched Iron Man one night. And then I was like, oh man, maybe hopefully I can convince them to watch Winter Soldier another night, and so we ended up watching Winter Soldier another night. But man, Iron Man still holds up. Iron Man is really good. That is a solid movie. Um, oh, plans for tomorrow: watch gold mining videos. I mean, be careful though. If you came in late, like I was talking about, there was somebody that joined the chat from Australia, and I said I've gotten kind of hooked on these Australian gold mining YouTube channels, and yeah, it's just like you just turn them on, and there's so many. They just YouTube just keeps feeding them to you, and you just find all this stuff that's fun to watch. I like watching those, and I like watching there's a guy called like the Crystal Collector, people that are like hunting for different types of crystals and that kind of thing, or gems or whatever. And I enjoy that stuff. It's fun to me. Um, I was wondering if you're watching the national championship game. Can't wait for the amateur. Yeah, I do. Like I said, I do have it over here right now. I see that Georgia just made another big play, and they are continuing to run away with this game right now. What is it? TCU has 7. I don't know what Georgia has. They've got something over the 24. So 24-7. So it's not looking super great right now. But yeah, at least we've got the Ant-Man trailer coming up. Yes, Dan Hurd up in Canada. I've been watching his channel too. That guy is great. So I was like, maybe I should start saying like, I hope I earn your subscription, because I love that. I love his little opener and everything. So yeah, Dan Hurd is awesome. His gold videos are really good. Yeah, that was a good day for me. We have suffered, as a Michigan fan, we have suffered for like 2 decades of just beat downs at the hands of Ohio State. So I mean, to win a couple in a row was pretty nice. Yeah, and that's so that's why I usually I don't talk about sports or college or like what I'm a fan of, that kind of thing, because I know like sometimes people can get really emotional about that. So but yeah, that is why I don't talk about the Wolverines too much right now on the channel, at least. But I do have some Michigan thing that's up there. Let's see. So looking to get my first Golden Age comic book, but don't know where to start. What was the first that got you to collect them? So the funny thing for me, like, I don't know if it was the first Golden Age book I bought, but it was one of the first. One of the first Golden Age books I bought was my Wonder Woman #1. It was, and I remember it was very early when I was getting back into comics. I'm pretty sure it was in 2019 when I started getting seriously back into comics, and I saw this Wonder Woman 1 on Heritage, and I was just like, that seems like that's going too cheap, and I bid. Oh, and here's Superman 1. I wonder what did I have that one go, or Superman 2? Sorry. Wow, that is a good price for that book. Another one of those, like, okay, now we're getting a few more bids in there. I had it going for 8,500, because it's also potentially signed by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, which is pretty cool. It's not gold label, but yeah, like 7,200. I mean, it's a record, so it's one of those things where, like, let's go. Actually, let's see. Okay, there's something coming up in a little bit I want to watch, but let's look at that Superman 2 pricing. Because I like the cover for Superman 2. I think that's a pretty cool cover. It's got a really cool back cover too. I think this one does. Oh no, this isn't the one with the cool back cover. No, ignore my comment. But I like this front cover. I think it looks pretty cool. But let's see, that was a 1.5. I mean, we had a 1.0 incomplete go for 11,600. Then you had a 3.0 go for 9,000. You had a 4.5 go for 10,000. That's why this one was really, really tough for me to price. Like I said, I had it at 8,500, but I'm not surprised it went. What did it go for? For 7,200. That's not surprising. It's almost like, I mean, it's kind of like this. Shoot, my leg is cramping. But it's like this one right here. I wonder what, maybe this one just looked really nice. It's not. I was hoping that was maybe a Heritage sale or something like that, but it must have been on eBay if there's no There's no link to it, but that one was maybe just way too high, and so the more realistic price was somewhere in the $7,000 range, given the 3.0 going for 9,000, 4.5 going for 10, 6.0 going for 15. So yeah, so I mean, maybe that price is pretty reasonable for it, but it's one of these books that I feel like it's just there's so much demand for it. The base value is just going to be so high regardless. But yeah, I mean, I bought that one. I bought just because I thought it was a pretty cool book, and I just felt the price was good. But the thing that really got me into Golden Age was when I got onto Instagram, and so I got on Instagram and I started seeing people with sharing the pre-code horror books, and that's really what got me into it. And the interesting thing there is that I'm not like a big horror fan. I've talked about this before. Like I don't watch horror movies or anything. I used to. Me and my buddies, we used to love to rent like cheesy horror movies like Ice Cream Man and that kind of stuff. And I think it was named Ice Cream Man. I'm pretty sure that's right. Not like the current comic, but there was these movies that we'd pick out at like Blockbuster, stuff like that. We'd go rent them and just watch that stuff. But then I watched a couple of the like super scary ones, like The Ring and that kind of stuff. And I was like, they just freaked me out, and I was like, I don't need this. So those movies just like totally turned me off of horror. It was just too scary, felt too real, and but I like the whole just general. I think I like the history of them. I think the covers are cool, which I really do like. And then I like the whole idea of in the 50s, a time that when people I feel like are often thinking like, I don't know, I always say like Leave It to Beaver type stuff, like just everybody's smiling and happy and all this kind of stuff. And you have these brutally violent covers that are being made for kids. And I just think it's a really like interesting mix or cross that you have with that. And so, but so it was, I've talked about her channel before on Instagram, but it was Comic Book Nerd Girl. I saw her post a Suspense Comics number 11, which I can show a copy of that. So it was this book, Suspense Comics 11, this LB Cole Devil cover. And that started getting me really hooked on LB Cole. And I started checking out all the different LB Cole covers and that kind of thing. And so this was kind of like what got me into it was that cover. And then soon after I saw that, I was able to buy a copy. I bought a copy on Instagram from Elite Comics 11. People have asked some places that you can buy like safely on Instagram. Elite Comics 11 is a great place to purchase comics. But this is one I wanted to watch too. Shoot. I'll throw one in. Let's see. It's doing the countdown. See if someone's going to bid against me. No, I won that one. All right. 1-2. Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, this one this is a super rare book. This is Super Mystery Comics number 3 from volume 1. And it's yeah, definitely like this one. Let's see what they say. It's only the 4th copy that they've ever had on Heritage. I mean, extremely rare book. I saw this one sell, I think during one of their like premiere auctions. It was like a 3.0 that went for, it was like 5,000 or something like that. So I knew I wanted to take a shot at this one. So yes, that's cool. Glad to have won that book too. But yeah, so that's really what got me into it at first. It was the pre-code horror, and then it was LB Cole, and then I started learning more about Frank Frazetta, and then you start learning about Schomburg and the World War II covers and Matt Baker and like the Good Girl covers, and it just kind of like expands into all this different stuff. And so, but yeah, it was definitely pre-code horror that first got me into it. When is the next Comic Link sale? I don't know when the next Comic Link sale is. I think there's like a Hakes auction going on right now that they've opened their bidding on it. Yeah, this book is another one that's gotten a lot bigger. This Tales from the Crypt 33. This is the origin of the Crypt Keeper. It's a Jack Davis cover, but Yeah, I got, if you saw that unboxing video, I had a 7.5 that came back in that book. The Star Trek 8.5 difference in price between the 9.0 that just sold is crazy. I don't know what the 9.0 sold for, so I'll have to. That is definitely a book that it's like Scooby-Doo #1. I think it's like maybe a lot of those gold keys. They don't really exist in high grade, and so you start getting some really big price jumps. Yeah, so 4,080 here, and it had sold even higher. Let's see, what was the peak? Had sold for 5,563. Um, but yeah, the Star Trek books across the board. In my recent submission, I got back a 6.5, I think. 6.0 or 6, maybe a 6.0 and a 4.0. I sold the 6.0. That could even be my sale, and then I still have the 4.0. But yeah, I like Star Trek. I grew up watching Star Trek. My dad loves Star Trek, so my favorite one was always Deep Space Nine, because I think that was the one that was on the most when I was getting a little older. Let's see. Comic Link has an auction going on right now. Lots start closing on January 16th. So there's your answer. New Ant-Man trailer drops in an hour. Am I that far behind on the comments? Okay, I'm not that far behind. I thought it was supposed to come out at halftime, but maybe it's in the second half, because we're almost, it's 31-7. This game is not feel like doing the live stream was the right choice. I was a little nervous about it at first. I was like, oh, I'm going to miss a great game or something, but it looks like it's a little bit of a runaway right now. Man, I hope you picked that one up then, because that seems like that was about half the price. I always wonder about that, like how, I mean, how often that happens, where you have, these like smaller auction houses, if books go for significantly less or that kind of thing. But that's one of those things where I don't really know how to even find out about that stuff. I think that's always the hard part, is like, what's the advertising for it? Where do you find out about all these different types of sales that go on? Because I do follow some other sites that I know do auctions, but my general experience has been that, I don't know how, but it seems like a lot of times the prices still stay pretty strong in those. Like, enough other people watch them that it boosts the prices. How many books do I estimate the price on per auction? So what I do is I go through every book that's going to be in the auction, and I pick out what I identify as like the keys, like either whether that's important covers, or, because in the golden age, it's often a lot more things like, important covers or popular covers. And then with the silver, bronze, modern, I pick out keys, like first appearances, like this one, like Tales of Suspense 57. Like, what did I'm sure I did this one. Yep. So that one, I had estimated it would go for 2,500. And it went for 2,520. So I was as close as I could be, because you can't actually get a bid of 2,500 on Heritage, because of the way that they do their bidding with the 20% buyer's premium and that kind of thing. But yeah, so for me, I don't know exactly how many it'll be, because it depends on the week, like what books are up for sale that week. But on average, it's probably 175. The low end, it might be like 125, high end, like 250. Every once in a while, I get there's like some auction that's just like packed with keys. There was one a couple weeks ago where I was just like, what is this? It was like the week before I had hardly had anything to price. I mean, and when I say that, I mean, it was like 110 or 115 books. But then the next week, it was like 240. It was like nobody had wanted to sell that week. And then the next week, it was just a ton of them. But that's why I use percentages when I'm looking at my numbers and everything, and that's why I average it out over each 3 weeks. And because otherwise you get, it's a lot of noise. But it tends to, I feel like it gives me some useful information to follow. Is there any automatic grade tiers? Example, detached cover, centerfold. Yes, that's actually, so if you've watched, so I re-released my buying tips video. I think it was my buying tips video a few days ago, maybe earlier this week, or maybe it was late last week. I don't remember. And in that, I talk about another YouTuber's channel, ETA Nick. Now he doesn't make videos anymore. He stopped creating new channel or new videos maybe like a year ago or something, or 6 months ago. But his channel has the most comprehensive grading videos anywhere. Like his channel is the go-to place if you want to uh, have somebody at least teach you how to grade. The best experience of grading is seeing the books in hand. But if you want somebody to teach you how to grade, that channel is the best one. He has a little cheat card that he put together that it basically tells you like when this thing happens, you can't get above this grade. And it's like if there's a detached staple, you can't get above, I don't remember exactly. I think it's like a 6.0. You can't get above a 6.0. If it's a detached cover, you can't get above a 3.0. If it's a detached centerfold, you can't get above a 7.0. And that you might find an exception every once in a while to that where somebody did get above that. Like he has that on there that you can't get above a 7.0, but which is what I normally see. But I did see one CGC book that got an 8.5 with a detached centerfold. And so, but it gives you pretty good rules for what you can follow. Now, there is that CGC grading book that they put out, but I will say trust what CGC does, not what they say in that book. Because that book tells you that with moderate tanning, you can get up to an 8.0. And I have not seen anything with moderate tanning recently that they've been giving back that gets above a 6.5. So I trust what they do, what I see on the books that come back or what I see on other people's books. I don't trust what that book says. And so that's how I grade. I grade based on my experience with what I've seen that's actually being graded by CGC. And that's why every once in a while, when I see something that's acting differently, like if I get a large submission back and I have one specific type of flaw that's not being treated the way I expect, that's when I notice something. And so when I submitted a bunch of books earlier this 2022, I noticed that with foxing, that foxing wasn't getting hit very hard. And I was not getting me the grade. I was getting better grades than I expected. And then later this year, I noticed that tanning was getting hammered. If you got moderate tanning on your book, you're getting hammered. And so now if I'm on like a live claim sale or something and someone's like, oh, this book has tanning, I immediately get very cautious about that book because like I said, the highest I've gotten back on with moderate tanning is a 6.5. And most of the time I'm seeing a 5.5, maybe a 6. And so that's what's made me very cautious about things like tanning. Yeah, I know. I probably can't really control what I'm saying uh, when I the bidding is going on. But that's one of the fun things with auctions because like you're kind of like you're trying to like tell someone else not to bid against you, even though you have no control over it. But I'm trying to I'm trying to like will that person to not click on that bid button. Um, yeah, that's funny. Let's see. I don't care about cover variants, but I like the price variants, Mark Jewelers, National Diamond inserts, etc. Yeah, I mean it's all that's one of the things that's great about comics is that everybody can choose what they want to collect, what things they like, and there's really like a niche of collectors for just about everything. It's like it might be a small group, but there's a group of people that probably just like there's one where I've heard some people say like they love the covers with the old school like underwater like diving gear. And so I'm sure there are people that are like, that's what I collect. I collect covers that have that like 1940s diving gear on the cover. And, it's just everybody gets to collect the type of thing that they want. Yeah. And that's what I was talking to him about that I always think it's interesting when his data shows the same, because we go about getting our data in completely different ways. And, but I do see that our results are often in line with one another. Like I was showing that I was seeing stronger sales recently, and he had that video about the Silver Age books, and he showed a slight uptick or like kind of like level. And so yeah, I always like to see that. It helps confirm what I'm seeing. Ryan, will you consider collecting pulps after CGC starts to grade them? So pulps make me. I don't have confidence in pulps right now. There's pulps are. I think they have some really cool covers, and especially when we're talking about things like Golden Age, like covers are what you're buying a lot of time. but I have zero concept for rarity of pulps. And that's because things like a census don't exist yet. And so if we get a census, if we get that CGC census out there for pulps, then I think that would help a lot because I mean, for all I know, there are a million of some of these books out there because maybe people weren't destroying pulps like they were destroying comics. You know, people were out there in the streets burning comics when the Comics Code Authority was being put in place. Maybe people weren't doing that with pulps. I have no idea. And so I don't have any real legitimate feel for what the market is for those. So I am very hesitant to put money into them. I know there are certain ones that are really expensive, but I don't really know why certain ones are more expensive than others because there can often be ones that you're like, oh, that is an awesome cover, and it's like $20. You know, you go onto eBay and there's like 30 of them for $20, and I'm like, it's not like with comics where it's like if you saw this like crazy skull cover, you're like, I know that's valuable, and it doesn't work the same way with pulps, and so that's why I've got to wait. I've got to play a wait and see with it. But since I am often like especially when you're talking Golden Age, I'm a cover collector. It's something I could see myself getting interested in, but I need to know more about what's really out there. Um, that would be a home run. I don't know which one this was. The home run sale, according to ETA Nick. I do have a video that's been coming out soon that I got a book that I'm really really excited about. That I don't know if it would quite be a home run, but it's pretty close. It was an eBay purchase that I made over Christmas, and so that's one of those things that I've said this before in other videos that there are certain times of year that if you're looking for deals, you want to look for auctions, usually on eBay, sometimes on some of these auction sites at certain times of year. Christmas is right around Christmas is one of the best times to find deals on auctions because people are distracted with other things, you know, doing stuff with family. They're spending all their money on Christmas gifts. And so if you can like put some money aside and you are looking for a book and you see one pop up for sale at auction around Christmas, you can often get some really, really good prices. And that's how I got my first Famous Funnies 214. It was an auction that ended like 3 days before Christmas or something like that. And so when I saw it come up, I was like, I can't believe somebody put this up for auction ending at that time. I was like, this is meant to be. I am going to win this book. And I ended up winning that book. And it was similar with this other one that I recently picked up. So speaking of Kang, has the new Ant-Man trailer dropped yet? I have the screen on over here and I haven't seen, it's possible I missed it. But I have not seen something that would jump out to me as the auction. But I don't have the audio on because I don't want to have the NFL, you know, like suing me for my channel having that audio in the background. All right, let's see here. I was apprehensive about Kang at first and going after an Avengers 8, but now I'm on board. More on the side of Majors elevating the character. Yeah, I mean, and that's what I'm really hoping for too. I mean, he he is a fantastic actor. Like you can tell he is a fantastic actor. And so and even in the trailer, he's very imposing on the screen. And so I'm looking forward to what he does with the character. How long does it take Heritage to ship? I paid on the 28th of December. Let's see. So I bought something in the. Did I buy something in the? I think the most recent auction I've gotten books back from was like the 25th one. Have they shipped that yet? I don't know if they've shipped that yet. Here, I'm gonna check on my other screen, just because I'm going into my account then, and I can maybe help you out on the answer for that a little bit. Let's see. So they just shipped my one that I bought from last weekend. And let's see, had they shipped the one before that? That's funny. They shipped the one that I won on January 1st. They have not yet shipped the one that I won on December 26th. So I don't know what that says, but my usual experience that I have with Heritage Shipping is that during like a normal time of year, they're actually pretty fast. They are usually shipping the book out a week and a half after the auction has ended. During Christmas, they were slow. I had one that took maybe three and a half. I don't know if it got to 4 weeks, but at least 3 weeks to get out. I actually called them and asked about it because I was wondering why it was taking so long. And they said, "Oh, it's Christmas. It's a really big busy time of year." And so I'm I think it seems like they're starting to catch up some. But that one that I won on the 26th, I mean, what would that be? We're almost at 2 weeks from there now. So that one's going a little slow, but like the one I won last week is already gone out. Right. Let's see. Quick question. Is it worth getting any Golden Age book graded? Like, will people ever appreciate the artwork on them? Not any Golden Age book. No, there are. So that is definitely one of the challenges with the Golden Age is that it was a long period. You know, some people break it into the Atomic Age. I don't. I just keep it all as one. But 1938 to 1955. I mean, that is 17 years, and so there's a lot of stuff in that time frame, and there's a lot of stuff that isn't worth all that much. This is one. So I'll jump over. This is one that's pretty interesting because like an 80 goes for like 12 or 1500. And so it's these Matt Baker books, usually high grades sell for a lot, but this book specifically has quite a few high grade copies. And I think that's what's hurting the 7.0. Like if you have some of his like romance books, if you had a 7.0, that book, no question, is going for 1500, 1800, something like that. But here a 7.0 is only going for $600. Always, it's tricky. Some of the Baker books from the Golden Age are definitely tricky. But yeah, back to this grading. No, I mean, to me, most of the time, if I'm going to get a book graded, I generally want it to be over a $500 book. That's not always the case, but that's often kind of like a line that I use. Just like I found if I'm selling a book raw, I can still sell them generally okay if it's a $500 or below book, but above that, people tend to want to have that confirmation of the grade, confirmation that it's not restored, that kind of thing. And so that's usually when I'll get it graded. So if you're buying this kind of stuff, if you're getting books graded, I mean, I cannot recommend enough. I've said this in my other videos too. Get one of the pricing services, whether it's Cover Price or Go Collect or GPA, whichever one fits your budget, whatever it is, get one of them so you at least have an idea of approximate values, because there's no point in getting, some Golden Age book that's worth like $50 graded, spending $50 to get a $50 book graded. There's just no point in doing it. So you really want to understand the value before you do that. The tricky part with the Golden Age too, though, is that those books have been around a long time. And so restoration is a real issue. And so I've missed it before, it happens, it doesn't matter. Like you can think you can catch almost everything, but you're going to miss something at some point. And you do your best to try to catch it, but it's not always very obvious. But yeah, that's a big thing. I mean, it's in every age, but Golden Age, they've just been around so long that it's much more prevalent. So just something you got to keep an eye out for. And that's also why people like to have them, when you're selling them, if it's a bigger book, to have it graded, because that's what gives you that confidence. Ryan, are you planning to do another live stream during the upcoming Heritage auction? No, because it's in the middle of the day. So that's the problem. I can't do live streams during them. I work. So I wish that's why I do sometimes do them on the Saturday, because they have their it's still pretty big books, but it's not a live sale. It's an automated sale. And so that's why often like I'll try to do it on like a Saturday if I can, but I can't do the Thursday ones because it's like right in the middle of the day. So yeah, it's unfortunate. That's why I can generally never even watch those things. I guess maybe they figure like if you have the money to buy those books that you either can pay someone else to go bid on them for you, or you don't have to work or something. But I wish they weren't at that time. I scooped up the soup too, just to have it. No, I mean, I think that was a good buy. That's cool. Like Superman 2 is a great book. So congratulations on picking that one up. But yeah, no, that's those are the types of books that I don't feel like you can really go too wrong with them. It's like there's just nobody's out there undercutting you, with a Superman 2. They're gonna have that just that strong base value. Yeah, but no, that's cool. Congratulations. Um, will Ant-Man hit a billion? I don't think any of the Ant-Man movies have gotten close to that type of number. But they've often been kind of more like comedy, jokey type movies. And this one feels more like, like a big, like Avengers style movie. And so I don't know. This one, with how good the special effects and how a lot of special effects this one requires, I feel like they probably need it to hit some big numbers, or else they are gonna have maybe a little trouble with the money. Um, bought a Star Trek one last year, probably four. Oh yeah, did you get yours? I thought you sent yours in to get graded. Nowhere Bound. Did you end up getting that one back? Because I know you had some books that I thought you'd said you were sending in. Um, got my McFarlane books back from CGC signing today. How do you feel about Sig Series books? I'm not too big on Sig Series, but again, it's one of those things. It's whatever people want to collect. I do buy the Stan Lee signature series books. That's the main exception that I make is for Stan Lee signed books. But I mean, if you're gonna put kind of like the most in demand signatures out there, it's like Stan Lee, maybe Jack Kirby, and then it's like Todd McFarlane. I mean, I think it's funny how he's joked that if you have a Spawn one, you should keep it unsigned because that's probably more rare than his signed copies of Spawn one. But yeah, I mean, he seems like a really good, like he seems like a legitimately good guy that cares about his fans, and so I mean, I think he's a seems like a good guy to support. But I don't even know how much he made in that signing. I think they said he signed like 30,000 books or 35,000 books or something in a week. And if he was getting $50 a signature, just an estimate, 1.5 million bucks for a week of work. It's not half bad. Um, let's see. Do non-comic book people in your life find it strange how much you can spend on comic books? I don't know how many, like, I don't, I've talked to a few people about it. I mean, I feel like I kind of like talk to comic book people about comics for the most part. My brother buys and sells comics too. He collects comics, that kind of stuff. And so I have someone, even my family, even that I can talk to talk to about comics a lot. Um, it probably surprises my wife some, but she understands. And I mean, yeah, I mean, others, I don't, yeah, I feel like I generally just talk to comic book people about it. Now, I did mention, I've bought a few Pokemon cards over the last couple of years, and I mentioned to some friends how much I spent on like my Charizard, and that seemed to surprise them quite a bit. So yeah, I think it probably would if I talked about it more. Bought a Ghost Rider 2 from him, which he graded at a 9.0, sold it to a friend who had it come back a 9.4. I don't know if you're talking about ETA Nick or someone else, Chuck, but yeah, no, that's cool. Was that the 1950s Ghost Rider 2 or the 1960s Ghost Rider 2? Yeah, so this one, the other interesting thing with Rust is something that people overestimate how much that hurts the grade of the book. You can have some very high grade books with rust on the staples, and you can get some pretty high mid grades with like very rusty staples. Like I had an Avengers 8 that had rust on the staples with migration onto the inner pages and got a 6.5. So that's one of those those are certain things that can be useful to know about. Like if you know that boxing doesn't hurt the grade all that much, and somebody might be, marking their book down a lot because of foxing. Maybe you get a good deal on it. Same thing with rust, but also then knowing that tanning really has been hurting the grade. And so just those types of things are very useful when you're out there looking at books and evaluating them. But yes, he stopped making videos. He seemed like, I mean, if you've watched, I watched his channel a lot, and ETA Nick was an interesting guy to watch. He definitely did not care what anybody thought, which made his videos fun. But he seemed like he had enough of YouTube. I mean, he's made, I think, thousands of videos. I mean, he has made a lot of videos over like the 10 years or something like that he's been on YouTube. So I think he just finally had enough. The other week on Heritage, I grabbed a 2.0 Tomb 1 for $380, including buyer's premium. Christmas time is a great time to buy those bigger books. Yeah, no, I agree. That's what I'm saying. Christmas is a really good time, and kind of like midsummer. You tend to see kind of some lulls in midsummer. You see some lulls around Christmas. I do often see like prices tend to start coming up in the kind of late winter, early spring. I definitely see higher prices around then. I see higher prices kind of like around the Thanksgiving, September to Thanksgiving timeframe. Some definitely time periods that I see prices climbing. For the comics that I collect, what do you consider rare? For there, I'll say like one of the books that I bought, the one that I picked up on eBay that I was really, really surprised to see pop up for sale right around Christmas on an auction. There are 18 universal copies on census. That book is rare, so nothing in the Silver Age is rare. Nothing in the Bronze Age is rare. If you're talking about rarity, like, for me, like if I'm talking like rare, it's less than 100 copies on census. That's why I wouldn't really even call Batman 1 rare. There's like 300 copies graded out there. But less than 100 copies is where I start, when I don't see a book come up for sale every year in any grade, that's usually when you're talking about rare. And that one that I picked up, it had two graded copies sell in 2022. And prior to that, one hadn't sold since 2017. That's the type of stuff where it's like, and that's the type of stuff that really, is fun for me with the Golden Age, because even if I wanted that book, I couldn't go out and buy it. I have to wait until there's somebody that is willing to sell a copy, or, and then you've got to be hoping that you are watching eBay or watching Comic Link or Comic Connect or Heritage or whatever auction house it came up on at that moment. If you watched my recent video, I recently picked up a Okajima pedigree book from 1944. If you're not familiar with the Okajima pedigree, it was a woman that was in a Japanese internment camp in the U.S. during World War II. And she was a comic collector. And so she would buy like 2 or 3 comics a week while she was there from 1943 to 1945. And so she also continued to collect after that until the early 50s. And that pedigree is extremely rare. There are only like 1,000. The pedigree is thought to be about 1,000 to 1,200 books, but only I think like 350 or 400 known examples. And then if you're talking about the ones when she was in the internment camp, they are just almost non-existent. I had been looking for a copy from that time period for over 2 years, and one popped up on an Instagram claim sale. I saw like I said it was from it was the Grails Comics, and it was a seller named Prince of Cheese. He had gotten a collection recently that he was selling through Grails, and he pulled out this book and he's like, "This is from the Okajima pedigree." And I saw it was 1944, and I was like, "Holy cow! I cannot believe I am watching this claim sale at this moment when this book came up for a book that I have been looking for 2 years." And so I was there were multiple people that put in the claim, but luckily, like I said in that video, my internet was just a little bit faster, and so I got my claim in first. So I was really happy about that one. Yeah, if you pay by check, they're definitely Well, it depends how long of you've been a buyer from them. So I've been buying from them for a number of years, and you've watched my unbox. I've spent quite a bit of money with them. They will ship my stuff before I've even paid. So yeah, if you're a new buyer, they're probably not going to do that. But I often will have my stuff shipped out before I've even paid. I'm talking about Heritage. Oh, here we go. Whoa, that is a huge sale. It's at 780 already. That is big. And enough 840, 900 for a 2.5. What did I have that as? Check. 900. I had it as, let's see, all to 435. I thought it would go for $500. Wow, went for 900. But I've always thought this is a cool cover too. I think this is a Johnny Craig. Yeah, Johnny Craig cover. But it's like super dark. It's a super like depressing cover. But yeah, Vault of Horror, like $900. Like, let's take a look at GPA for that. All right. So just to like put it in where some other sales have been, like we had a 2.5 go for 580 in October, a 3.0 go for 710 in June, 3.5 go for 800. And when you get up into the 4.5, you've got some pretty big jump ups here. But this book isn't I don't think this is a 4.5. Not with that spine. It's a pretty nice presenting copy. Not again, and that's a big selling point for some of these, where they don't have like big creases and things in the middle. So you have really nice looking image, but man, the spine is rough. But they graded it as a 2.5. That's how they graded it. So like when you're looking at that compared to sales with graded copies, that was very, very high. Especially when you back out things like grading fees, because that's normally how I do when I'm evaluating a raw book for these heritage auctions. I look at what I think the grade is, and then I look at what the graded price would be, and then I back out grading fees, and that's what I estimate the price of the book as. This is a big one too, Venus number 15, because Venus has the biggest, one of the biggest pre-code horror covers. But yeah, I know I priced this one too. I thought this would go for 3,000. Yeah, and it's already up over 4. But I don't know the last time I've seen this book come up for sale. I can. So yeah, that was a really, really big sale. 43.20. Over 30, like 40% above what I thought it would go for. So yeah, really, really big sale. But let's get back to what are my thoughts on Golden Age Canadian variants? I have a couple. I'd say the demand is not as high for them. It's not really like the price variants for like the more modern books where you have the Canadian price variants that often sell for quite a bit more than the US copies. I've often see them sell for about the same as the US copies, or sometimes a little less. That's what I often see with the Canadian variants. Let's see. Yeah, Mark, I'm joining late tonight, but I'd also been bidding on that Superman 2. Love the signatures on the cover, but don't love the stain. Dropped out above about 1K below. Yeah. So you definitely had, had a couple people in here bidding on that one, which I always think that's cool. That's part of what I really liked as well about like Instagram, that kind of thing, is I would see people like getting books and posting books that I had seen come up on Heritage, and it kind of just like it makes things, I don't know, it makes things feel more real. You know, you get like a little more connection with people when you see that they're getting these books and like, who's bidding on these other books, what other people like. Um, I have a Marvel Mystery 8794, highest on census. What would you? Yeah, I mean, highest on census are almost impossible to project price, because a lot of times it just comes down to, do you have the right person in the auction, bidding on that? Because because when you're talking about highest on census, there are some people that will just pay just about anything to have that top graded book, especially if they're trying to put together some type of collection of like the highest graded copies, or that kind of thing. So um, that I'm not even gonna guess what that book would sell for. Will we see you back at the Firehouse in Annandale next month for their show? You seem to pop in and find some great Golden Age books there. I mean, probably as long as I remember that it's coming up. I like going over there. I enjoy just kind of like looking through the bins at different people's booths. I've been surprised by the amount of Golden Age books that I find there. There's like a lot of booths will often have like one or two boxes, sometimes more than that. And you never know what you're going to see when you're flipping through those boxes. So um, yeah, I'd say I definitely found more stuff the first time, but you never know what you're going to get if you don't go. And so, but yeah, I'm going to try to go every month if I can. Um, oh, you haven't seen the Star Trek one yet, but Scooby Doo came back at 3-0. Nice. Yeah, congratulations. Go Collect makes it easy to search with the name and issue. How do we convince GPA analysis and cover price to stop requiring the number? Yeah, I've just gotten so used to it. Oh, I wanted to watch this one. Let's see. Oh, let's see. Do I want to throw in another one? No, I don't think so. All right. I like some of these early Walt Disney's comics and stories, like the ones when you're down in the really um, the low numbers. I do like going after those. There's another one coming up that I'm kind of interested in too. But yeah, that I don't even think about it much. I actually type it in on Go Collect now too, whenever I go on there, just because I naturally hit the pound sign whenever I'm entering the number. Um, Newbie. I mean, I know, that you would like me to talk more about Captain America, um, but his books came up earlier. They were yesterday, so I don't have a lot to talk about with Captain America right now. But if I do one on a Sunday, one of their first days, then I will definitely I'll definitely do that for you. This one's going pretty strong. I had it at 400. It's at 420 now. I like the World War II type covers. So like this is one of these war bonds covers from 1944. So World War II era, and the ones with Donald Duck as Uncle Sam. I always like those. I think those are great. Um, all right. I should do shows with. I have done shows with you. I've been on your channel a number of times. I've been on uh, Vancouver Comic Junkies channel. So yeah, you just got to have me over on your show again sometime, and I will have done more shows with international comic collectors. So you're saying I used to own a Daredevil 131 with light rust on the top staple, and it hit a 9.6. So yeah, that's what I was saying. The you can get some pretty high grades with light rust. And I think it's just something that a lot of people don't expect, that they think that rust is really going to kill the grade, and it just doesn't that much. Golden Age is a bit out of my price range, but a shop near me has been selling coverless GA Batman with complete interiors for around $20 a piece that I've been grabbing a decent bit of. Yeah, that's cool. That is the interesting thing with Golden Age, though, is that there are a lot of price ranges for them. Now, yeah, if you're talking keys or like desired covers, yeah, you're going to be hundreds or thousands of dollars very quickly or easily, even at very low grades. But if you're like, say you wanted to start maybe getting into like good girl art type covers, there's things like Jungle Comics and Jumbo Comics where when you get to those later issues, even in high grades, they're pretty affordable. And in low grades, they're very affordable, like easily under $50. And so a lot of these do have some options out there if you keep your eyes open, where you can get some pretty affordable books that you don't have to pay huge money for. Let's see. ETA Nick still posts movie reviews on his Boxless YouTube channel. Was that his new channel? That must have been his new channel that he started. I followed that one for a little bit, but I didn't see him posting videos all that often, and so I ended up unfollowing it. Oh, but hey, Kamikaze, he's also in one of the chats. See, I'm in these chats with Canadians. Newbie's giving me a hard time, but that's actually it's funny. I feel like I've had a couple people recently. Like there's somebody that reached out about purchasing a book and they thought I was in Canada. I think I wear the Banff shirt a little too often. I wear like this one. This is Snow Basin, so we got Utah in this one, but I think I wear my Banff stuff. My wife tells me I wear my Banff sweatshirt too much, but I love it. It's the most comfortable sweatshirt I have. So I just got the Donald Duck War Bond on Heritage. Love those patriotic covers. Oh, congratulations. Nice. Yeah, I really like that cover. I feel like that one, I'm always surprised it doesn't go for more. I feel like it's one of those books that eventually will just end up picking up a little more steam, because the other War Bonds covers tend to be a little pricier. And so I mean, it's from 1944. It's a great Donald Duck cover, World War II content. So, yeah, I think that's a great book. What other comic book YouTube channels do I follow? I follow a lot of other comic book YouTube channels. But I mean, I guess, and this is where I'll feel bad if I don't, name them all or something like that. But I follow Newbie. He's in here. I follow Mickey at Swag House Comics. I follow Dave with Comic Book Investments. Let me check. I mean, I can go check my. I watch I don't watch much like normal TV anymore. I've said that. I'm gonna check my subscriptions. I tend to watch a lot more YouTube now than just about anything. Let's see here. So, oh yeah, Alex the Comic Quarter, Pressable Defects, Bronze Age Nerd, Bryce Comics, Comic Book Canon, yeah, Comic Book Investments, Comic Collector Geek, Comics with Bonix, Comic Tom, Como Comics, AA Comics, Erod 212, Geek Aficionado, Hazel Dan, Jason Parker Comics, Journos Comics, Keston's Old School Comic Books, Longbox Love Affair, Lords of the Long Box, Mark Spector Comics, Mint Hunter Comics, MJ Comics, Newbie Comics, what else? Pop Comics, Sector 2815, Superpower Reviews, Spec Collector, Slim's Collection, the Dorkeries, Vancouver Comic Junkie. So those are the ones that are currently on my subscription list. So a lot of them. I have a lot of options available at any given time for comic book content. Let's see. I do miss Nick's channel though, but hey, we have Ryan's channel still. Yeah. No, I definitely miss his channel. I liked seeing, like, being able to come back and watch his like recaps of some of those, the bigger auction sales. Cause like I don't often watch Comic Link, and he was always watching Comic Link. So he was kind of like the person that I would watch to get an idea what was going on in the Comic Link sales. Do I ever think about putting UV filters on the books behind me? No, I don't ever really worry about it. It's never something that's really crossed my mind. I swap my books out enough that they're not really out here in the light all that much, and they're not in direct sunlight either. So I'm really not all that concerned about it. I have like little like LEDs and stuff that are in there, but I really only use those for if I'm taking pictures. So if like you follow me on Instagram, and if you don't, go follow me on Instagram. But if you follow me on Instagram, every once in a while I'll do a picture that's in there just because it looks pretty cool when it has the LED lights around them. But the real Hyperion, hey, what's going on? But I don't know. Did they end up playing the Ant-Man? I mean, man, 7-38. If they didn't play that Ant-Man trailer already, I don't know how many people they're going to have left watching to see that to see the Ant-Man trailer. I hope they. I didn't see anybody in the comments say that it popped up, so I'm guessing they have not played it yet. But I thought they were going to play it at maybe halftime or something, but must be that it's going to be in the second half. But yeah, no, like I said, I'm not overly surprised by the score, but I feel like Marvel's going to maybe regret that they didn't put that video or that trailer in a little earlier in this game. I mean, but we're all going to go watch it on YouTube anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I was just thinking the same Ant-Man trailer playing to a house of zero. Yeah, I mean, I'll usually I'll keep that stuff on, but I mean, at this point, if I was watching this, I'd probably if I wasn't doing the live stream, I would probably be watching some Australian gold mining channel at this point, because there's no I can't say there's no way they're coming back. It's always possible that someone comes back, but it seems like it's unlikely. What are my thoughts on international comics? I'm not all that interested in international comics. Like I said, I do have Canadian comics. I make a little bit of an exception for because they generally are more or less accepted as similar to the US comics. Usually it's the same covers, same interior, everything. It's maybe just different price or slightly different printer that actually printed the book, something like that. But I've never really gotten into the other international comics, like the foreign language comics. Yes, the advice on building a comic business. I hadn't talked about that. So the reason, if you haven't watched that prior video that I did, I'm basically going to be making a series of videos about this. So I had picked up a comic book collection late November, I think something like that, late November, and it was all in for my material, so bags and boards and everything was $325. And so I was trying to think of what I could do with that in terms of interesting content, as well as what could maybe motivate me to sell the books. Because also, if you watch my channel, I tend to deal generally in higher end books, like slightly more expensive books. And so it's hard for me to motivate myself to list a book that I know is going to go for $4, something like that. Because I got to sell a lot of those $4 books to be able to buy, some more expensive book. So I thought something that would be kind of a fun project to take on with that is treat it like I was starting a new comic business, because not everybody is going to be starting with, thousands of dollars or whatever, or has that to spend. I mean, even Very Gary talked about that. That's how he started. I think he said he bought maybe a $400 collection or something like that. And he has just built all of his comic business from that. It's buying and selling collections. That's the way that he's done it. And so while I don't tend to buy collections very often, I tend to focus on individual books. But what I thought I would do with this is I would see first, basically have this collection, sell it, and then I get the money back from that. And then as I get money back from it, I'm buying other books to then sell and see how that transforms over time, what I can build that up to. And so now I'm going to do another follow-up video because I've sold a few more books this weekend. I've bought a few books since then. And that's actually one of the things I picked up some. This is one of the sets of books. I'll go back to kind of the full screen. One of the sets of books that I picked up recently was this was from an Instagram claim. And so I got the 1 through 4 run of Wolverine. And these are all kind of in that 6.0 type range, 5.5, 6.0 type range. And then a really nice copy of Wolverine number 8. This one with a press, maybe a 9294. And so for these, and he threw in 2 other books, was $85. And so that's something where it's that's the type of thing I'm looking for, where I bought those Bronze Age books. I sold those, or I sold a number of those. Then I use that money to then try to find other books that I can get good deals on. And then I can, sell those and see where it goes from there. Now, the only negative about the Wolverine one is that you won't be able to see it in this video, but down in this corner, there's just a single line. It's like right on the corner of color touch. Somebody used like a felt pen or something like that and filled in a crease. And so I'm torn on what I want to do with it. If I want to cut the corner off, or do I want to sell it as, and just, put in the listing, like issue 1 has this color touch in the corner. I think it's tough because I think it would probably be a little easier to sell if I just cut the corner and then I don't have to say anything about restoration, because then because that's what CGC would do, because it's definitely C1, meaning it's amateur restoration that you would have to cut off. And so if you were going to send that into CGC to get that restoration removed, that's what they would do. They would cut off that corner. And so I think because it would still probably be like a 5.0, with that. So it's not like it's a big deal, but it takes away from the visual appeal. So I haven't decided what I want to do with that yet, but that's one of the things that's one of the sets of books that I picked up, but I have picked up some other books too, because like I mentioned, I like to buy and sell slightly more expensive books. And so that's what I'm trying to turn those, the 300 and like 90 Bronze Age books that I picked up and turn them into like 10 or 20, like a little bit nicer books, and then sell those and turn those into some more nicer books and sell those into some more nicer books and that kind of thing, and just show how that builds up over time. And that's one of those ways that you can approach building a business. And while I'm doing that, I'll talk about all the different expenses that go into it, and things like, like a lot of people have questions about taxes. Like I have my comic business already that I do, and I got to pay taxes every quarter. That's how I do it. I do quarterly. And so how do you estimate what your taxes are going to be quarterly, and all this kind of stuff that can be very intimidating at first. Like I had to get a business license, and all that kind of stuff can be, when I first got into it, it is intimidating. And so those are some of those things that I'll be talking about in future videos. But for this one, that's what I wanted to talk about, was that I did have a couple that sold this last weekend, a few lots. And so I picked up a few more books there. Now I did have one unpleasant experience in that I had one person that won 4 lots that then wanted me to give them a reduced price afterwards. And so I did not do that. And so then basically then they're, basically not paying me. And so now I'm gonna have to relist those. And it's just I don't have it happen often, but it happens every once in a while, and you just got to kind of deal with it. But that's one of the things that sucks sometimes when you're dealing with eBay, that kind of thing. Because like if it was like I was selling them on Instagram, you wouldn't have that type of issue. They reach out to you, or you have the book posted, you sell it, and it's done. But with eBay, people try to force you to do things afterwards, and they know that eBay is going to generally side with them and this kind of thing. And so that's one of the hassles that you take on when you're dealing with some of these selling platforms. But it's generally worth it. I mean, I like selling on eBay. It's my preferred platform, just because I like the whole, I call it set it and forget it. And actually, let's see, there is a 1 through 4 coming up on Heritage right now, and I think they're like 6.0s. It's like the exact same as this, and it's sitting at like $130 right now, something like that. And we'll see if that ends there. Yep, there we go. 100 and I think that's 149. So yeah, there we go. Let's see what this one ends at. But yeah, but that's the type of, that's, you just got to keep your eyes open. And because let's see, what is this one? What did that end up going for? It sold for 159. So it's like, say I was able to sell that lot for $150. Say I sell the Wolverine 8 for like maybe 60 or 70. That's like 210. The other 2 books that he threw in are probably about $10 each. So that's taking $85 and turning it into like 230 minus things like eBay fees. And that's turning $85 into like $195. And then I can take that $195 now and I can buy something else with it. And so it's that constant, trying to upgrade what you have in your business and get new inventory and that kind of thing throughout that process. Everything always is doing a live stream watch party for the trailer, and he's running out of things to say. Yeah, that's funny. There we go. But yeah, saw your first business video. Looking forward to the follow. Yeah, no, I'm actually I wasn't sure how that was going to be received. I was honestly I was nervous about making that video because you know every once not everyone like, you come across like some people that definitely don't like the idea of selling comics. You know, they're definitely and they don't like the idea of you selling comics. You know, and so it's fine if you don't want to. You know, if you want to just collect, if you never want to sell, that's totally fine. But you occasionally come across people that will like attack you. You know, I've had people send me emails and negative stuff like that, and you get the comments, and it's all part of putting yourself out there. You just have to, you know, you end up having to deal with it. But so I was nervous about putting out that video, but it's actually been one of my most viewed videos. And so it seems like, and it's gotten really, you know, a pretty positive reception. I think people have enjoyed that. And so I'm hoping I can add more to that. And it's one of those things where what I'll probably do is I'll pose questions in the videos to see if there's certain things that people have questions about, because maybe I've come across that issue, you know, like the whole idea of, you know, how do you estimate what you're going to pay for your taxes? How do you deal with that kind of stuff? If there are questions like that, then I can potentially throw those answers into different videos to keep things interesting and maybe help people out if they're looking to get more into that side of the hobby or of the business. Let's see. Have you ever heard of the non-canon Mexican Spider-Man comics? Yes. There's the one where the main one I know of is the one, and I don't know if there's others. I thought there's the one with where Peter Parker marries Gwen Stacy, where she doesn't die. And that one is extremely expensive. I don't remember what the number is. I feel like if I saw the cover, like that's how I remember certain things. Sometimes I remember the numbers, sometimes I remember the covers. I think if I saw the cover, I would recognize it. Um, let's see. I'm sure I can find it. Let's see. Yeah, this one right here. So it is. I think it's that. Yeah, this cover. I'm pretty sure this is it. So there's, I don't know if there's a better picture of it. Yeah, this one. I think this is it. That book has had some massive sales, some really, really big sales. So yeah, there are certain things like that are useful to be aware of, because you know if you didn't know that book was worth a ton of money, you wouldn't think anything of it probably when you saw it. But that book there's some pretty serious demand for that one. Is comics my full-time job? No, it is not. Comics is a side thing for me, but I do spend a lot of time on it. I mean, obviously, like make it. I think that's something maybe people don't realize how much it goes into like making videos and everything. That's why it's kind of fun doing the live streams every once in a while. You know, even though it's 2 hours of a live stream, making a video easily takes me 2 hours after filming and editing and everything. So, and then I don't have to go back and edit stuff afterwards. But yeah, no, it is not my full-time thing. Your 300 book trade up is like those old YouTube videos watching someone trade a paperclip into subsequently larger items. Yeah, no, I mean that's kind of what it is to some extent, and that's how at first that's what I was thinking of doing, where I was going to like try to turn it into a Grail or something like that. But I thought taking the business approach of it would be something I hadn't really seen on another channel. I'd seen like ETA Nick doing like chasing a Grail, where he was like buying books and like flipping them and that kind of thing. He gave up on it because he was worried that people were like stealing his eBay leads, so he stopped doing them, because like people like he would show the book and then people would find out who he bought it from, and then they would start following those people. But yeah, so at first that's kind of the approach I was thinking of taking, but I thought the business side would be fun. I am actually thinking of doing a separate series of videos doing that, but using my childhood collection as the starting point. I thought that would be a fun series to do, but I need to at least get to a point in the comic business one where I'm down to a smaller set of books, because right now I still have quite a few lots that I have to put up from that original purchase, and those just take they take quite a bit of time to, you know, get a book sell for like I said, like $14 or something like that. So I got to get through all those, and then, you know, kind of have the new books that I've had from that all listed, and then maybe I'll take on that next one, because I did actually just buy another collection as well, which should hopefully be coming in later this week. And this one was pricier. I'm not expecting nearly the kind of return as I did on the other one, because this one had a couple bigger books in it, and so if it's got bigger books that I can get more money back quicker, I'm going to spend more money on the collection. And but that one I bought actually on Instagram from someone on Instagram. I'll talk about that in the video, and I think that one will be interesting, because we were talking about Frank Frazetta earlier, and there are a lot of Frazetta covers in that one. Yeah, no, I mean, my main, so this comment here is about what I was mentioning earlier with the person who bought multiple eBay lots. I I don't know. I think when my eBay store was really new, I was really like scared of anybody that would, you know, potentially give me negative feedback. But now I don't want to cave to the people that I feel like are doing stuff that's crappy to sellers. You know, it's like I've had enough of those instances where I've just caved because I know that eBay is going to side with the buyer. But in this case, I know I'm right, and I don't really care. You know, it's like $15 lots. You know, it's like it's not the end of the world to me, and I don't want to get, you know, bullied by this person on eBay. So I just decided I wasn't gonna I wasn't gonna take it on this one. But yeah, you know, and that's something I've talked about too. It's like, I mean, I've had plenty of good experiences selling lower dollar books to people. The first 9 auction lots I sold went off no problem. People paid pretty quick, got them shipped out, got positive feedback, all that stuff. But that is often what I have heard from people, is that more often you will experience these types of issues with somebody buying a $2 book than somebody buying like a $2,000 book. And I don't know why that is, that, you know, like you'll have people that will complain about grading on a $2 book, or in this case, someone trying to, you know, screw you out of like $5, you know, stuff like that, where it's like, come on, you know, you won like what, like, I think one of them was like 6 Bronze Age books for $15. The other one was 4 Bronze Age books for $15, and then trying to, like, you know, get money out of me from that. It's like, come on, like, just, you know what you paid for, and, you know, just pay the bill. Like, I don't know. It's frustrating. It definitely is frustrating sometimes, but yeah, you have to deal with some of the negative stuff. When my overall, I've said this before, my overall general experience selling on eBay is pretty positive. Yeah. I mean, yeah, and that's part of it. And, you know, I'm fine if people want to say, like, you know, comics are for reading, but you don't, as long as they're not attacking other people about the way that they collect because of it. You know, it's fine if you don't like graded comics, don't buy graded comics, you know, that kind of thing. Like, but don't go after people that are buying graded comics. Don't go after people that like signature series or variants or moderns or whatever. You know, it's just, everybody gets to buy what they like to buy. Have you heard of Overstreet Access? I have. I haven't heard anything about it since like that initial announcement, though, where they said it was coming. I don't know if it ultimately is out already. I have no idea. All I know is that Overstreet, like the price guide, those prices are for like golden age stuff and that kind of thing are useless. You know, like those prices are completely wrong all the time. And so if Overstreet Access is going to be something that's useful, they can't be doing pricing that way. They have to be doing something like Go Collect, GPA, Cover Price, where they're pulling in sales data on a daily basis or hourly basis or whatever it is, and, you know, having accurate, up to date pricing. If you're just basically getting like a digital version of Overstreet, or maybe it's updated once a quarter, we all know that's not good enough. Like, just looking at, you know, you look at GPA and you look at, I don't know which book this is. It's probably it's a it's Golden Age book. It's not very But if you look at like Amazing Spider-Man 129, and so let's look at like one that sells, like a grade that sells a lot. And you can tell this one sells a lot because it took a while to load. So let's go down to something, yeah, like a 9.0. You know, if you're 4 months back on your pricing, I mean, this book, let's see, like, oh, that's 2023. Yeah, I mean, it's already had 4 sales in 2023, but like 2022, you know, just go back to the midsummer and you're over $4,000 for that book. Here you're hitting 3,000, 2,900, that kind of thing, like huge price variations over 4 to 6 months. And if that type of stuff isn't being regularly updated, I mean, there's no value. Good evening, everyone. Any insane sales tonight? There were a couple. I don't remember offhand now, but like that probably the one that's jumping out to me was the Baltimore 35. That was a really, really strong sale, which I'm happy to see, you know, because I have my copy. I have my copy of that book. So I'm happy to see that one go for whatever price it wants to now. But if you're now the good thing, at least for people that would be looking for a copy, is that it was a raw copy of that book. So it's not actually going to show up on, it would show up on cover price because cover price has raw sale data, but it would not show up on GPA or Go Collect. So it wouldn't actually impact anything. You bring up a good point that Overstreet prices are not reflective of the market. Who do you think even uses Overstreet? I mean, I have an Overstreet price guide. I like having it for like quickly flipping and checking maybe for like some key fact about a book or something like that. That can be useful. But for pricing, I mean, I know there are a couple people that use it. I've seen them. I've seen them price books from Overstreet, but it's not many. I mean, not many people. I mean, if you're selling, you really like, if you're selling bigger books, at least like books that are $100 or more, you should probably be using one of those pricing services to price your books. Yeah, yep, just like you said, that's the type of thing I use it for. Yeah, and like I said, yeah, like just like you said there, I have seen people price off of it. Let's see here. Speaking of auctions, did you see PBA Gallery Steve Ditko collection that ended recently? I didn't, but I did see some of the Ditko books that sold on Heritage like a year ago, and they went for huge numbers. So I'm guessing maybe they went for similar numbers on PBA, but I have no idea. But yeah, I mean, I've been on here for a little over 2 hours. It's usually kind of like my cutoff point for this. So unless there are any questions that anybody has that they'd like me to answer or speak to, I think I'm gonna start to wind this one down. I haven't seen the Ant-Man trailer pop up yet. I mean, it's on a commercial break right now. I don't know if it's gonna. I don't know if it's coming up now, but I mean, they're almost in the fourth quarter. I don't know when this thing's coming up, but yeah, everybody make sure at least watch the national championship game to see the Ant-Man trailer, I guess. And there's a few books left on this auction, but like I said, they're getting near the end. They're in the W's now. The X's are about to start, so they'll get to X-Men. X-Men takes a little bit to finish, but they're definitely getting near the end. Yeah, we've got to do a video on your channel again soon, Chris. Go over some of your CGC returns. Maybe talk about some of the VHS stuff that you've been getting. As I mean, I grew up watching VHS. We definitely had like the same like 5 movies that we watched over and over and over again until they looked terrible. Top 10 Johnny Craig covers. I don't know if I can do 10, but like I said, Baltimore 35 is my favorite. Then probably Crime Suspense Stories 22. Then probably 16. I think it's 16. 16. No, 20. Probably then 20, the hanging cover. But yeah, I'd have to think about it. There are a lot of great Johnny Craig covers, and I'd have to cross over into some other titles. But yeah, because there's some that'll slip my mind, like Baltimore 39. Like I really like that one. It's just like a creepy dark cover. But yeah, let's see. They've got a few questions, so I'll check this out. What are the best places to buy Golden Age books? Like, I mean, this is what. So when I picked up that Okajima book, I was talking to one of my buddies about it. That he's the one that kind of got me back into comics like 10 years ago, like just like reading some. He's the one I was telling people like I'm I borrow trade paperbacks from him, and that's how I end up reading stuff. But he just basically said constant is like constant vigilance. You know, like you have to watch everywhere. You know, if you're looking if you're looking for certain types of books, you have to cast as wide of a net as possible, especially with something like that, because that is an extremely desired book. And so you've got to watch all the auction houses and everything. But if you're talking like straight Golden Age, I mean, Heritage is good because they have a weekly auction. But if you want massive volume, Comic Link, man, Comic Link is like they have anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 books per auction. They have almost everything. You know, when you're looking at auctions on Comic Link, they have almost everything. They are a good place to go. The harder part is that they're only like every like 6 weeks or so, 6 or 8 weeks, whatever it ends up being. But yeah, Comic Link is a pretty good place to keep an eye on, just because there's so many of them. Um, let's see. Yes, I agree. Let's do a video where we make fun of Newbie. That's always a good time. Only thing left to see if Georgia can hit 70. I mean, they're at 52 it's not even the fourth quarter yet. So that is definitely a possibility. Let's see. So what did that 4.5 sell for? 12,200. Let's see. I'm sure I priced that. Let's see. What did I think that was going to go for? Oh, I hadn't gotten to pricing that one yet. That was the bottom book. I didn't do my X-Men yet, so I don't actually want to watch the X-Men because I don't want to get my prices skewed. So I'm not going to really look at that very much. But yeah, the last book that I priced was the Wolverine one, and I had about 10 X-Men books. I didn't have time to finish it before the live stream started. There's some friendly Golden Age Facebook groups that can help hunt a book down for you. Yeah, so I'm always hesitant to like tell people what I'm looking for. Like I thought about making a video about, you know, like what are the 10 books I'm searching for, that kind of thing. But I'm just like, for Golden Age books, if you have one other person that you convince that like, oh, that's a cool book, that is one other person that's going to be bidding against you in those auctions that now you have to deal with. And so um, I'm hesitant to talk too much about the stuff that I'm like hunting for with Golden Age. With like Silver and Bronze, it's like there's a lot of those books out there, and you know, but with Golden Age, I'm nervous to like tell people I'm looking for something. Um, yeah, but that Comic Link is exactly right, and it's why I don't tend to go on Comic Link all that often, because I get so overwhelmed with the number of books that they have. But yeah, they have just about anything, and usually it's broken up where it's like the first 2 days are certain, you know, like whether it's Golden Age or whatever. Next 2 days are Silver and Bronze. So, um, but yeah, all right. I think I've answered everybody's questions, and hopefully we get that Ant-Man trailer before too long. You know, we got hopefully coming up. Maybe it's between the third and the fourth quarter, because we're right about to switch over. So, hope everybody enjoys it. Hope it's always hope it's a great. Um, hopefully it's a great trailer. Hopefully, you know, we see all kinds of Kang books selling and everything like that. But yeah, thanks everybody for joining the chat. Thanks for all the comments and hanging out. Appreciate it. It's always fun. And I will see you on the next one.